welcome to this week's edition of the Geeking Out podcast. I am the Athletic Geek, joined by.
Organoid Zero!
Mhm.
Woo!
So, this week, our topic of discussion is our favorite superhero video games. Comic books and superheroes and video games are like peanut butter and jelly, like they just
Mm-hmm.
belong together. And there's been a lot of crossover, a lot of different video games based off of superheroes and comic books. Some amazing, some laughably awesome or awful, I should say, and some are laughably awesome. Some are like so
They
bad
are.
that you can't help but play them.
Oh, absolutely.
um, so we're going to talk about our favorites today, and I think I might be off base, but I think we should just go ahead and start with one that I think we both love, or at least we love who, the star of the game was, and that is the Arkham
The Arkham
trilogy.
series. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the Arkham quadrilogy. I'm just going to be really open and honest with
You
you
liked
here.
Origins?
Even I I loved Origins. I'm going to be really honest with you. Now, was it broken at first? Yes, but it had some of the best boss fights, the way they set them up in the game. And how they did dialogue and certain stuff with Bruce's origin with Alfred and like the actual dread of how they presented Bane in that game was really good.
That part was good. I liked Origins. I got it like way after the fact, though. I got it after it had gone on sale, and
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like the other ones where I pre-ordered or got it very very early in the life cycle. I was one of those I'll get to when I get to it, and I did like it, but
Mm-hmm.
it was one of those. Origins was a game where once I beat the main story, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm good. Whereas with Asylum and City, I kept playing afterwards. I wanted to, attempt. I didn't ever do it, but I wanted to attempt to get all the Riddler trophies.
That's what I was just about to ask you if you ever got all. The only one I got all of them on was Asylum, and they weren't Riddler trophies. But in Origins, the Riddler was a like information broker, so you had to get these tablets of like info that he stole from people. And then when you got all of them, you could break into his hideout to find him. And as he escapes out the back door, he leaves the very first Riddler trophy for you to find.
Nice.
I'm like, that's really cheeky. I'm like, that's funny. But there's like 400 in city, and there's like 440 in
Right.
night. Nice.
Yeah, it was. I wanted to, but it was too much. But Asylum, I guess we'll talk in order about these, and this may take most of the episode. But Asylum, I was excited about it because Kevin Conroy, Mark Hamill, Arlene Sorkin, at least those three coming back. And it was a great game. It was a twist, where you like have to stay in Arkham Asylum, and it made sense, like that story made sense for like, hey, how do we, without making it feel too contrived, make a video game where Batman fights a shit ton of his rogues gallery.
Mm-hmm.
The Joker takes over Arkham Asylum where they're all locked up. Easy.
Makes sense.
Um, I think my favorite out of the group was City, and I did not like Arkham Knight that much. Like it was the story was good, but I loved the Predator missions, and
Okay.
I didn't like the Batmobile. And then they replaced most of the Predator missions with Batmobile stuff, which you'd think me being a racing guy that would be fun for me, but it really ended up not being fun for me. But it was still it wasn't a bad game. It was just
Mm-hmm.
you know
Yeah. I would say Asylum had the best environment,
yeah.
like feel for the game. City was a very good upgrade on that. I myself liked Night quite a bit because you got to have Mark Hamill in your ear for 80% of that game saying some of the best lines you ever got there. I always had a soft spot for Batgirl. It's between our C4 and C3 vertebrae, and just
Mm,
that's the whole game. He's talking
yeah,
about this, and the amount of stuff they do with Barbara and Jim Gordon in
yeah,
there, and the stuff they all add in. I will admit, I didn't hate the Batmobile as much as most people did. I don't know if I just got a hang of it more because I was used to GTA 5 or not GTA 5 or GTA 4 style driving at that time, which you kind of had to let the car lean more in it than less controlled. But like, I did not have the issue that everyone else did when they were upset when you saw who the Arkham Knight was coming a mile away.
yeah,
I'm sorry, these are Batman comics. They don't make new people all that often. You can
yeah,
still enjoy a storyline if you can see something coming. It all
yeah,
depends on how they do it. And the nightmares of like when you were going through certain stuff and you're getting Joker hallucinations of Joker torturing Jason in Arkham Asylum,
yeah.
that was really good.
The, it, as a story,
Yeah.
it's top notch. As a game,
Yeah. I see what you're saying
you
with some
know,
of that stuff, yeah.
S tier story, B tier game.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, in my opinion, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, S tier story, S tier game.
Mm-hmm. The
Um,
what was I gonna No, I had a thought. I forgot about it. Go ahead.
well, Asylum, they do really do a tremendous job going through, you know, introducing, you mentioned new characters, introducing Warden Sharp and Mayor Sharp, and
Yeah.
they do every, it, it it was that game was like the Batman video game equivalent of A New Hope. Like
Yeah.
it set the stage and set it perfectly. And then when they had to escalate it in the next game, it made sense. I know some people thought like, oh, that's kind of weird, like what kind of it's a weird story point that they would block off a piece of Gotham City to just make a giant prison.
And then when you think about it from a comic book standpoint, this is
Like,
on the low 10% of the stupidest shit that's happened in
yeah,
Gotham.
they literally cut off all access and made it a no man's land in comic book canon. I think this is okay.
Yeah.
Or at
Oh
least,
no, a criminal killed another criminal. Oh
yeah. Um, but I thought, I know this was like something that people complained about, especially Marvel fans, but I felt like it was like really cool how they kept with the theme of, Arkham,
Oh
but
yeah. Yes.
also like they put it in a way where you could explore, what's the one thing that you couldn't really do much in Arkham Asylum? Well, you couldn't, excuse me, you couldn't really explore the city much. There's so much of the Batman world, but you're confined to Arkham Island. In Arkham City, you were able to still keep with the theme, but you could do a lot more. Um, I thought the way they introduced being able to do Catwoman missions was really good. I thought the way that you had to be in kind of that format to use some of the villains
Yeah.
that in City compared to Asylum. Like you couldn't have done a Two-Face or a Penguin
No.
battle in Asylum. You just couldn't.
No.
But when you kind of open the world up a bit more, like they did, yeah, you could have a Penguin mission. You could have a Two-Face mission, sure. Um, I think one of my favorite parts of Arkham Asylum was the Easter eggs. Like you'd see like a lot of Easter eggs, just like bigger things of the Batman mythos. The old crime families, Maxie Zeus, things like that. And
Yeah.
then you hear conversations about like the old obscure Batman villains, like from the 50s, which I thought was kind of neat. But no, Arkham City, I played the new game plus. I played DLC, and I kept trying to get to that Riddler trophy, but damn it, Nigma, you stumped the shit out of me.
I got enough to where you took Riddler down in City.
I didn't get that far,
It,
unfortunately.
do you know what the mission turns into?
I've watched, I've long
Okay.
since said like I'm never gonna do it. So
Okay.
it's been years at this point. I'll watch, but yeah, I've seen it play out where you gotta
Get him out from his
yeah
little control room and stuff. Yeah, that's what
yeah
I always did. I was like, I typed in easiest Riddler trophies to get, and then zipped around and got all the easy ones. The only thing with the first two, and it's one thing I really liked about Origins, Asylum wasn't so bad. It turned into, once you played City, you realized how much of throwing battering at blank Asylum was, and
yeah.
the only real gripe I have with Asylum, the ending boss fight was not great.
Oh yeah, the ending
And
boss fight. It's funny you mention that because I know when I play like my friend beat it before I did, and then I got it, and whatever. He basically said like, you're gonna have a hell of a time beating Poison Ivy, and then after that you're good.
pretty much, yeah, you're
Yeah,
not
Poison
wrong.
Ivy was ridiculous, and then the ending boss fight with Joker, I'm just like, really, that's it?
Mm-hmm. He's gonna go stand for the my adoring public. Oh, nothing.
Yeah,
But I did appreciate the blowing his teeth out with you putting the explosive gel on your fist. Like the ending of it was great. City got better with some of the boss fights, that for sure. There was still a bunch of like kind of dodge and whatever. The only thing that I had an issue with in City was I, for some reason, sucked so bad at the gliding aspect when you had to get around the certain things before you had the Ra's al Ghul boss fight.
yeah.
I sucked at just that part. Like the AR challenges and all that stuff in the city, nailed them. For whatever reason, the angles on the one with the Ra's fight, I sucked at.
And the race part's like one of my favorite parts, like going down and having to find Wonder City and all of that. Like that was really cool. Um, and then something else, and this was, it's that I liked about City was when you played New Game Plus, you could play. They had like all those different bat costumes,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go back and play it from the beginning with the Neil Adams Batman or
With
the
the
Batman
animated
Beyond.
series.
That's the only one I didn't like because it just didn't look right in the like. It was cool that I love that they had it, but it just didn't look right in the. It didn't like it. On one hand, it's like okay, it looks accurate. That's what it should look like. But then with like the rest of the world, I'm like, oh, this don't look good. So
It
that's
would
why
have
like
been
I don't.
it would have been cool if somehow they put enough work into it where they would have created a filter for the
Yeah,
game. I know that takes a lot, but
and probably a lot that you couldn't get on a PS3 slash Xbox 360. Now, if this would be coming out today,
yeah,
you'd probably be good. They could probably get done.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Um,
and then City, I should say Night, it had enough moments in it to where the negatives outweighed it. I will never not tell someone that they aren't allowed to like Night because of the Batmobile. Because I will openly admit there was
I
a
won't.
lot of it.
I won't say you're not allowed to like it. I'm just speaking for my favorite thing about the game was taken down of that series, I should say, was scaled back significantly for something that I didn't. Admittedly, I didn't quite get the hang of, and then when I kind of did, I'm just like, this isn't as fun. But on the flip side, I will concede you had to do that because what's the one thing in that series you didn't get to do a lot?
The Batmobile.
Batmobile.
And they finally had a system that could support it. I tell you now, I don't know how much you still game or play whatever. That game
Not
came
a
out
lot.
at the midpoint of the PS4. There are still not a lot of games that come out now that look as good as Arkham Knight did on the middle of the PS4 life cycle.
Yeah, I didn't. I got it for Xbox One. That was the other than Gears of War that came with the system when I bought it. That was the first game I bought for my Xbox One.
Yeah, okay. Also, we have to give Steve Bloom a lot of credit. Him, the guy who voices Cyborg in Teen Titans, and like one other guy did 90% of the thug dialogue in all these games, and some of the I can't remember the exact thing, but there's a line in Arkham Knight. I've probably beaten that game like 16 times. I've beaten each one bordering on 20 times, but there's one where you're sitting there trenched over a pole, and there's these two exact thugs that are right outside a Wayne Tower, and you'll have to always get these like, Batman wouldn't be so tough if he didn't have that freaking car. He's like, yeah, but he has the car. And then the thug goes, yeah, but I'm just saying if he didn't, and I'm saying he does. There's just tons of lines like that where you just hear these people just. Or if you disarmed a thug, and he was the very last guy left in a Predator map, if you disarmed his gun, or I should say, you could use the tool, and you could make it so his gun couldn't fire. And then you would sneak up on him, and he would radio for people, and he would go, he's right behind me, isn't he? And then you would turn around, and he would go to fire at you, and drop the gun, and just, boom, just knock him out. There's a bunch of little extra dialogue and shit like that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
I don't love the ending of Arkham Knight. Like, it's good. It's good finality, but it was still kind of like, it was a downer. It's a downer.
It is a downer. You're not wrong.
But yeah, Arkham City, maybe my favorite video game. One of my favorite superhero video game, up there with favorite video games, period, of all time. Arkham City.
Absolutely. It's way up there.
But there are plenty more, and not just the Arkham series. So what's a superhero game that you really like?
I will do one that I tell you right now, I might offer up a firstborn child if this ever got playable on a current gen console. And it was the God of War ripoff Ghost Rider tie-in TV or movie game that released on the PS2.
Really? I didn't even... I mean, I'm not surprised that there's a game like that existed, because there was a video game based on every superhero movie that ever came out during that period of time, but I've never seen it gameplay or anything.
It's fun. Have you ever played Devil May Cry?
No.
Okay.
I'm not as big of a gamer, so...
Yeah, no, that's fine. There's just a little mechanic in it that I've never seen in another game that shocked me. This game was basically if you shoved Devil May Cry, God of War, and Ghost Rider in a blender and hit frappe, that's what you got, and it worked shockingly well. It's what more things should do, like this character, and just blatantly rip off another game's playstyle if it works. This was, you would go through hell levels, and you would fight all these people, like in Devil May Cry. You got higher point values at the end of a mission if you increased your style ranking. What your style ranking was, if you switched through weapons, you didn't just hit square 500 times, you did a combo, and it would go from D all the way through S, or triple S. And it would gradually climb, and you would have to keep that meter going by not stopping and not getting hit. Now, instead of that being your style ranking in this God of War game, you had to get that style ranking up before you could damage certain people. Okay. I've never seen another game have that mechanic in it ever, and I want it to be stolen so bad because it was a ton of fun. But you would alternate between these missions where you would have a mission where you'd have to go through God of War, Devil May Cry style, and then just take out enemies and do a boss fight. But then on the very next level, and it alternated like this for like, I want to say 20 levels, the next one was you doing a road rage track on the bike, sideswiping demons on motorcycles, flying through hell and going off ramps. It was one of the sickest video games that I still cannot believe happened. And then they just gave up on it. I understand that those movies did whatever, but the game was so much damn fun. And your ending fight against Blackheart in that game is ridiculous. You're fighting a giant version of it on top of a skyscraper while the building's falling apart. It's so damn fun. And it's one of those people where if you have a PS2 and are somehow lucky enough to get a copy of this game, I have it somewhere collecting dust in a freaking storage place somewhere. But I do have one. I just need to get my PS2 working again. It's so good. And it's one of those just arcadey style fun games that you could play 100 times and not get sick of it, even though it doesn't look high fidelity. It's so good. It's so good. And it's got random villains like Blackout and all these other people that, again, when you got these games for movies, they were never in the movies, but you weren't going to make a video game last 30 hours if you only had one villain. That's like the Spider-Man movie games when they
Oh
ran you
yeah,
through Scorpion and Doctor Octopus and the Spider Slayers in there when there was only Green Goblin.
yeah.
But it was so good. Anyone who's watching this, go find Ghost Rider. I believe it was on the PS2, the PlayStation Portable. It was on everything that was PlayStation at that time because I think that game might have came out before the Xbox did. So I think that's why it's not on Xbox.
Xbox 360, you mean, right?
No, the original. I think it might have been that early in the PS2's life cycle where it might
Really?
not. Yeah.
Was this the movie tie-in? When did Ghost
The
Rider the movie come out?
oh dear God. Ghost Rider movie.
Because
I believe it's
I know the
2000.
Xbox was
2000.
around when
Oh, maybe not.
when I before I went into high school and the Xbox
Oh,
was
maybe
around.
not.
So okay,
Then why it's not on Xbox? That's really weird.
maybe just a
It
PlayStation exclusive, Sony
maybe
exclusive.
maybe it
Um,
came out. It came out on in 2007.
okay,
So,
that's
huh?
when I
Weird. Weird.
um.
I remember
So I'm gonna
doing that.
go old for one of my next favorites. I mean,
Superman 64.
no, earlier than that. Um, X-Men Mutant Apocalypse for the Super Nintendo.
Oh, okay.
Um, so it there's not. I hate to say like because it's a Super Nintendo game, so there's not a whole lot to talk about. I mean, it's a Super Nintendo game. There wasn't DLC. The story it was a linear a very linear story. There was a few little different things that could happen, but it was as linear as it could possibly get, except for the ending.
Yeah.
But it was. I had so much fun with this game. So it starts out that you there's the X-Men to choose from. You have Wolverine, Cyclops, Gambit, Beast, and Psylocke. Those are your 5 choices.
Nice.
The first mission, the first thing you do is you're supposed to go to Genosha.
Mm-hmm.
And the first level, you have like every individual X-Man has a mission they're supposed to do, and you have to beat every one of their level. Then after that, you just pick one and go. But the first mission, you have to play with everybody and you have to beat the level with everybody. You know, there's different things like Cyclops cuts off the supply line. I think Wolverine is supposed to destroy Master Mold. I don't remember all of them. Like Gambit, I remember you have to like get on a boat and there's a helicopter and there's just a bunch of different stuff. And they're all incredibly different, and all those levels fit in with the different powers that they all have. Then after that, it is essentially just your standard side scrolling beat 'em up with a boss fight at the end. After that, but it's just so much fun to do. Like every mutant has different moves, and the thing is like it wasn't it took a little practice. I didn't like it when I was a kid because like I didn't like downright B to just do the optic blast or throw a card. But as I got older, I realized like, oh yeah, you don't want to just keep using your mutant power. So by you doing that and then having to actually like fight, it makes like these people you want to use your fists with, use fisticuffs, and then these you want to use your mutant powers on. Okay.
Yeah.
I still wish there was just a button that would do the mutant power, but I digress. And then later on, after you eventually defeat Apocalypse, and then supposedly, Genosha will try and stop having mutant slavery, and then, the government's going to try and switch it, and then at the very end, Magneto, like, there's funny, then you thought you beat the game there. Like, you thought that was the end of the game. Like, oh, that was cool. And then, right as that's happening, Magneto, like, interrupts Professor X, and you find out like he's like, I will just, within 24 hours, I will destroy Genosha unless, the United Nations give in to my demands of mutant rule. And then you got to go to Asteroid M to fight Magneto. But before you do that, so they could shoehorn Omega Red and
Oh, of course.
Juggernaut in, you went to the danger room for training, and you got like 2 random boss battles against Juggernaut and Omega Red, just so they could say they had Juggernaut and Omega Red in the game.
Of course.
So was that a little cheap? Yeah, but still.
Oh, absolutely.
Um, and then the only thing that wasn't linear about it is every level, every path to Magneto, if you depending on the mutant you took, the path to Magneto was a little different.
Okay.
And then the ending dialogue was different depending on what mutant you used to beat Magneto. And it was like the cheesy, like, but the best they could do at the time with the Super Nintendo, it was just basically, here is a picture with the mouth moving where it says Gambit. Look like you were dealt the Joker, Magneto. You know, and that's
Nice.
it. You know,
Nice. I like that.
um, but there's like different. That's basically the general consensus. There's probably some more dialogue in there. I remember it was so long that but they couldn't fill all the words. It's like look something 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 a Magneto, and that's the end of it with Gambit. But like all of them had something different to say. And then the other secret ending is if you didn't you didn't get a game over until every mutant was out alive. You ran out of lives with all 5 of them. If none of them ran out of lives, you got a secret ending of them flying back to the school and then being greeted by and whoever their significant other would be. So
Nice.
they're it's just still images, but like Jean Grey greets Cyclops, Rogue greets Gambit, Bishop greets Psylocke. This one was weird. Jubilee greets Beast, and then Wolverine just stands by himself with his arms folded.
Yeah.
Which is funny that
as he watches Jean and Cyclops from a distance.
Yeah, pretty much. But then I'm also thinking, like, wait, Jubilee and Logan they were pals. They took care. Yeah. I mean, I get you gotta throw some love to Hank, but come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now. Why you gotta do my boy Logan like that? But it's a lot of fun. I would play that. I'm stupid when it comes to mods and emulation and all that, but I would do whatever it would take to get an emulator to play that game again, just for that game. I love that game so much.
Yeah, there was another one that I haven't played it long enough to remember what it was, but bringing up Wolverine, I have to mention it. X-Men Origins Wolverine, the movie.
I like that game.
The game is fantastic.
Yes.
But that's another one where they went in a totally wild, different direction with how they were doing it.
Oh, yeah.
I know that we're probably gonna. I don't know if you would mention as much because you don't game as much anymore, but the Insomniac Spider-Man games so far are all phenomenal. The one I want to mention the most, though, because I don't think as many people has played it, weirdly, is the Miles one. That is a game that you can platinum in a sitting. You can beat that game in like 8 hours and get everything you need. It's tight knit. It's great. Miles gets his own little story. It's a very Christmassy feeling game. And it just it does great to show how much of a different person Miles is to Peter, and they get good representation in it without it feeling forced.
Okay.
You start because it shows up very much that Miles shows up at the end of the last game, and then he's in Spider-Man. You have like 3 in Insomniac. You have like 3 people in the city that know you. One of them is Mary Jane, one of them is Miles, and one of them is Aunt May. And Morales, you have like 12 NPCs that you meet throughout the entire game, and they randomly have cutscenes throughout the entire time. Because it's like all the people that have important jobs in Harlem get to know you and know you as a person well. And then, like, at the start, you have this great moment where he pops on headphones and you're bopping through, and someone's painting a mural of Spider-Man, Peters, and he's like, oh, maybe you should make some room for that new guy. And he's like, I don't know. He's like, no, I think he might surprise you one day. And then you, throughout this game, do some very neighborhood Spider-Man style shit and helping all these people while you're trying to take down Roxxon, which is this energy company that's doing this weird shit that's basically, if done wrong, is going to make this atomic bomb go off in the middle of town, which is what the Tinkerer, this childhood friend of Miles, ends up wanting to do to get revenge. And then all these people are getting under attack, and Miles, his uncle, one of my favorite characters, the Prowler, helps you through the middle of it when he was against you in it, and they have this big fight where you're trying to get all these Roxxon employees out of Harlem when they're taking the town over. Because again, it showed a very much like protecting his chunk of town to show that that part of New York is his, and
Right.
then they have this big fight where he's going toe to toe with his childhood friend, and she makes this giant sacrifice because there's this thing that's going to go off that she wanted to do as revenge. She realized finally was wrong when Miles talked her out of it, but they weren't able to shut it down, so Miles absorbs the whole thing, and then Finn rockets them into the air, and they explode above the city. But Miles can take it, so he falls and like crashes out, and his mom finds him. His mask is torn to shit, and his mom finds out that he's, Spider-Man. But then the cops and the authorities are coming in there, and they want to come and see who the hell this kid is to find out who this Spider-Man is. And all of a sudden, all these people that Miles helped along the game all stand like a wall in front of the cops. And then they were going off, and Rio makes sure Miles gets off, and then all of them go. He's like, "No, is that Spider-Man?" He's like, "No, that was our Spider-Man." Like staking claim that that's Harlem's protector, not just all of New York's. Like he belongs to Harlem, and no
Yeah.
one's touching him. It was very grounded and made you feel like every inch of that chunk of Harlem absolutely loved you and you gained their respect as a hero. And at the end of it, like you do the exact same scene where he pops on the headphones and bops through the city, but you see them clearly painting you next to the original as an equal respected person, and you're going through like dapping up everybody in town because they all know it's you. And when they realize you were just like a 16-year-old kid protecting
Yeah.
the city, it was a big thing. It was like that moment in the second Tobey Maguire movie on the train,
Yeah.
but the whole game was
Okay.
stuff like that. It was really good, and they changed up how you did powers, where you had to like kind of grind for like tech materials and other things. It was very tight knit, and not that I minded the other longer ones. I loved them. I could play those Spider-Man games for like 80 hours. They're very close to the Arkham games, except you add verticality and other things into it, which makes it nuts. But it was just cool to have that just you were in, you were out, and it was a 10 all the way across the board throughout. And it just looks gorgeous. My God, like his suits all have LED lighting going all throughout it, and they had like
Ooh.
some kind of like nanotech shit to where it looked really good, so you could see lights pulsating throughout his suit in full like HD as you're going through stuff. And yeah, the suit variations, like they gave Miles his own Prowler Spider-Man suit, and it looks sick as shit. And
Nice.
oh god, it was so good. And like you had a boss fight with the Prowler where you had to like basically be in tune with specific spottings from your spider sense to fight him as he's going in and out of being invisible fighting you. It's the boss fights are so good. Oh, it was just phenomenal. I could gush about that game for so long, but and then the second coolest moment I'll mention is something I wanted so badly, and I got it. In the second Spider-Man game, you obviously have Venom there. As that game was coming out, I'm like, I want one thing and one thing only. I want there to be a point where you're switching between Miles and Peter, which I got. Thankfully, you could switch between whoever you wanted to do certain missions as either, or there were certain missions where you had to do it. And it's the penultimate moment where you need to get Peter out of that suit because he's gone nuts. And
Yeah.
then you get to this area where he's about ready to kill Craven, and it's just not stopping, and he's about ready to, and then Miles swings in, and the Spider-Man you're controlling switches, and you get to fight Venomized Peter as Miles. and,
Nice.
it, and it was fucking awesome. As the game came out, I'm like, Insomniac, I want one thing. Please let me fight Peter as Venom and have to knock him out as soon as Miles. Oh, and it was done so well. Oh my god. And like, at one point of the game, like, Venom takes over and like captures Mary Jane and turns her into Scream. And
Oh wow.
you have to fight Mary Jane as Peter when she's Scream, and you basically
Wow.
have like you're letting out the emotions you guys have had bottled up this entire time, just all in like Yuri Lowenthal deserves a goddamn Oscar for how good of a performance he had as Spider-Man in there. Oh, it's so good. It might be my favorite version of Craven in anything. It's really good. Craven was a problem. He came in and just started icing villains because he was bored. It was so good, but yeah. that whole Spider-Man trilogy, and I will guess I will give a note about the first one since I've talked about all of them. There is a moment. I'm an emotional person. I'll openly admit
You,
that. Go ahead.
I was are you talking about the first Spider-Man games or the
The
first in that
first, the
trilogy?
first, the first in that trilogy.
Okay, okay, okay.
There's a moment where Mr. Negative and got in this pissing match with Norman Osborn because of like he's the reason why he's like that is experiments on him from Norman Osborn, and then Otto Octavius also is trying to help him get at Osborn because Osborn screwed him out of like funding in an experiment, and then they find this thing called Dragon's Breath that Osborn was hiding. And then Otto, to get back at Norman, was going to unleash this on the city and then tie it back to Norman to make Norman look like a terrorist, pretty much, and that he was hiding all this shit from the city. And then it gets unleashed on the city, and Aunt May gets sick. And
Oh.
you have one vial, one of the anti serum, or the serum for it. And then you get into the feast shelter, and Aunt May is on her deathbed, and she's maybe going to make it 2 more minutes. And you get in there, and you, as Peter, are like, you need to give it to the city officials, otherwise you cannot save the city. But you do not have enough time to save Aunt May if you give that away for the thing to be synthesized. And like you're sitting there crying at May's bedside, knowing I need to give this to the city, but if I do, May's dead. And then you sit down there and you're talking with May and you're holding her hand. I'm going to start crying. Um, and you have this great moment where she looks at you and like you're explaining to her as Spider-Man what's going on. And she looks at you dead in the face and said, "Take that mask off. I want to see my nephew." She knew the whole time and never said anything. And Peter was under the assumption for almost a damn decade that May never knew that he was doing all this. And she pretty much tells him, "No, I don't need that. Your Uncle Ben would be proud of you," and she like dies in front of him. I'm
Yeah, that's deep.
it's acted so
Wow.
well. Oh my god. And then later on, there's a moment where you have a similar thing with Octavius at the ending fight where all this happens because Octavius let Devil's Breath go. And then you have to go and fight Octavius on top of Oscorp Tower. And then Aunt May is just all that. Aunt May's dying at this time. This is before that, but you have this thing where you're beating the shit out of Otto because like you could have been a great scientist, all this, and then as you're getting ready to like lay on him, he then lets you know that he also knew that you were Spider-Man. And then you go, "You knew this entire time." And it clicks in your head that Aunt May's dying because of this poison attack he set out. And he's like, "You unleashed this on this city, on my family members. And you knew this entire time because you were helping him with his research. You were his like protege. And you beat the fucking dog water out of Octavius." And then as you're walking out, he goes, "You can't leave me," because his body's basically degenerating to where he can't walk without these arms, and you break his arms and leave him laying in a pile for the authorities to get him. And he says, "You can't leave me like this, Peter. You don't know who I might talk to on the inside." And Peter just goes, "You can tell whoever you want. I don't care anymore." Just walk off, and he never said a word. That game is so good. I know you're not a gamer, but man,
It's just time, and
I know.
I know with a
It's,
game like that. Here's why I
oh,
don't game. Here's why, like, I want to be a gamer. You know, and like there's certain like right now I'm playing promoter mode on Fire Pro Wrestling, which is a fun little time wasting thing, you know, I
yeah.
can do. I know with games, like if I played that Spider-Man game, I would ignore life.
Yeah,
I
you're
would
not
be
wrong.
so I would be so deep in that story and want to play it and get there so bad. Literally everything that I need to do in my adult life would take a hit. I would ignore my fiance. I would ignore our dogs. I would ignore my family. I would probably take days off that I shouldn't from work. I know that if I played those games and played them on my own and had them at my house to play and just go to whenever, that I would get too deep into it that life would just,
Spiral.
yes, I know it. And
Yeah,
whenever
I get you.
when I was 19, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 years old, fine. That's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, I hear you.
But
No,
now that I'm 35, that's not okay.
no, that
which
that's
is what
like, go ahead.
which is why for a while I was doing on the channel, I was doing the drinking and gaming videos I used to make before, like, again, life just got too too busy to even to take like a day out of my life to do that. That's why I did that, because I'm like, I'm not going to play these games any other time.
Hmm.
I'm never going to get to play these games if I don't like do something like this. And they weren't mine, and I'd go to my buddy's house and we'd record them and everything, and that was the balance. But even still, like, even that's hard these days. So no,
No,
I
I
want
hear
to play all of
you.
that, but I know what would happen, and I'm
No,
unfortunately not going to be able to do that.
no, I hear you.
But
That's
one
what
game,
YouTube Let's Plays are for.
pretty much, so I can experience the story of that.
Yep.
But now, keeping on to Spider-Man games, but definitely not as emotionally and deep as the ones you played. I'm going to go to my favorite Spider-Man game, which is the PlayStation 1 Spider-Man game from the year 2000, the
Okay.
one from Activision.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yep. I just I love that game. I mean, like I said, I don't have good gamer opinions other than just I love that game. That game was so much fun. You start off stopping a bank robbery, and then you got to fight Scorpion, and it all connects really well. And aside from Scorpion, uh, you got to fight Rhino. Then Venom captures Mary Jane, and you got to rescue Mary Jane, stop Venom. But then, and all this is happening because, like, Spider-Man stole reformed Doc Ock's invention, like on this very like public expo. Like, that's what happened. Like, the first
Okay.
cutscene is, I got a little ahead of myself, but first cutscene is like, there's this big science expo, um, and Peter's there and Eddie Brock's there,
Mhm.
and you know, uh, Doc Ock is reformed, supposedly, allegedly, and then in the middle of the expo, Spider-Man comes in and uh, beats up a bunch of people and steals Doc Ock's invention. And Peter's just like, I can't get in my suit. There's too many people around. And Eddie Brock has seen this happen. And he's like so excited. He's like, oh, here's pictures. Here's blatant proof. I'm gonna take these to Jameson, and we got Spider-Man.
Oh yeah.
And then Spider-Man sees these taking pictures and destroys the camera. And then that makes Venom come back out on Brock, because he's like, well, my career's over, because JJ's going to know that I had the chance to hang Spider-Man out to dry for good and
Yeah.
messed it up. Then it leads into all that. Eventually, you have to team up with, not team up, but like Venom becomes your ally in the story to take on Carnage and Doc Ock. And it's just lots of stuff happens. And it's a really fun game. You're not, it's not like on the level of something like the new
Oh no.
ones, like you were talking
No.
about. But for a fun Spider-Man game that you could maybe play in a day,
Hmm.
if that, probably even not even that long, maybe a couple hours, honestly, if you know what you're doing. Yeah, it's really fun. It's a lot of, they have like a real lot of really cool things. They have a lot of really cool cameos throughout the whole game with Daredevil and uh, the Human Torch, and there's also like really cool Easter eggs that you'll see around there. Like there's Roxxon logos everywhere.
Nice.
There's Hellfire Club logos, and there's like one where the cops are after you because they think you stole the device, and there's like all these like advertisements for you know, Wolverine interview at 11 on this channel and stuff like that. And it's really cool. Like you can go to the Baxter building, not like inside it, but like you can swing to it
You can
and,
see, yeah.
stand on the giant four. And, you know, for a PlayStation 1 game, there is an N64 version that I had too, but it wasn't as good. Not because the gameplay was bad, but just because, uh, in a game like that, I'd rather see the video than like in the Nintendo 64. They like made it like panels of a comic book to read like the
Oh, okay.
cutscenes, but in
Gotcha.
the PlayStation version, it was videos, and videos are just better. And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, it wasn't so much better that every the PlayStation 1 game was better than every N64 game, but
No.
in that game, yes, it was better that way.
Nice.
Um, so yeah, I just love that game. Never got to play the second one, which I heard was even better because I just went PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2 like after not when that game came out or not long after that came out, and
Mhm.
by then I played the Spider-Man movie game and just
Yeah.
never got to go back to it. But if I now that I could probably find if I could find a PS1 or a PS2 again and find Spider-Man 2, I'm definitely down to play that and experience that one. So
Oh, absolutely.
maybe I'll get to play that one after 20 years. Or
Maybe.
actually, well after 20 years. It's 2025 now. That's probably like 22, 23, 24 years now. So
Yeah. That's reminding me of those freaking those Spider-Man movie games when they had Bruce Campbell be your narrator.
now I liked I
I
liked
loved
those games.
that. I
Yeah,
loved that. I
I
loved
liked
it.
those games. I enjoyed them, but you know, it just kind of was what it was. It was a movie tie-in game. It was a good movie tie-in game,
Yeah.
but it was a movie tie-in game.
Yeah, like there was the thing where it's not my next game, but like in Spider-Man 2, there was a move where you could pile drive someone. And then it was always the challenge to where you could hold someone while you're waiting to pile drive, and you would hold them in a grapple, and you had all sorts of other moves you could do. Like you could tie into a post and box with them, you could do all sorts of stuff. But you could hold them and then you could swing with them for a while. It was always the challenge to see how much height off the Empire State Building you could get and then pile drive them clean down into the freaking pavement. There was all sorts of stupid, like, just
That just reminds me,
physics.
the one thing I'm proud of, or maybe not proud of because this goes against Batman. But in Arkham City, just because I don't know when I'm going to be able to bring this up ever again, there's that
Okay.
Wonder Tower mission, and there
Okay.
was one gargoyle,
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
like kind of right, not where the platform was, but and you could get the Tiger Guard, you could still do you could, get them where you can string them up and then they're hanging down. And then one thing that you can do,
Let's cut it loose.
well, I was gonna say, like, for people that never played it, once somebody was hanging, you couldn't go to the gargoyle and string him up, and that was like the essence of the Predator mission was either do that or creep behind him and do a silent takedown on him.
Mm-hmm.
But there was the one where you could hang them out where they were definitely hanging not over the platform, because every other platform, you could cut them down and they would fall down, but they'd just be unconscious, and it wouldn't look like a lethal fall.
Yep.
If you could somehow manage
Yep.
to get the one guard up on that one, you could throw the batarang, and I'm sorry, I know it
They're
says
dead.
they're still unconscious in your detective mode, but that guy's dead with how far he fell.
That reminds me of there's one for the Spider-Man games and there's one for Arkham Knight. My favorite thing was, all right, we're going to give people full control of the Batmobile. We're going to empty the city out, obviously, but we're going to make it so that you can't just run people over. So when you got close to someone, they would get electroshocked and buzzed out of the way of the Batmobile because there was an electric sensor around the in case someone tried to rob it. And then for Spider-Man, one of my favorite things was you had a thing called a web trip mine where you would shoot it up against a wall, and if someone got in front of it, it would zip out, grab them, and shoot them to the wall and explode in a web so they were stuck. That was their anti-Batman or anti-Spider-Man kills thing. So they were not against you kicking someone clean off a 40-story building. Did not care. They encouraged it. You would kick someone and you would wait, And as soon as they got close to a wall, a web would shoot out of their back and secure them to the wall so they didn't hit the pavement.
Now, the Spider-Man game for the PS1 and N64, there is a move where, and I guess you just straight up killed them, I guess, where you could launch your web and then pull, and then they would go off the side of the building. And there is no web where it looks like they get secured. With all the different people, you would be, and then you actually hear them go, ah, as they fell. So
Yep.
I guess Spider-Man did kill. But what was funny was in the level I talk about where the cops are ambushing you, and sometimes like if you can web or fight the cops off, but like the whole time you're doing it, like Spider-Man saying like, I don't got time for this, I gotta run. I guess trying to discourage a superhero from beating up all the police.
Yes.
But if you tried to do the web, shoot, pull, kill on a cop, the game would freeze a lot.
Oh, really?
Like, I don't know if that was done intentionally, but there was one time I tried to do that. Like, I'm going to see if I can kill this police officer with the web. Somebody's going to take that one fucking line and make me like look like a horrible person. But it's a video game, everybody. It's a video game, and I was 12 years old. I want to see if I can kill the police officer like I did, the guard. I remember like pull, and it looked like he's got ready to fall, and just like freeze, and I had to reset my game. That's like, so I don't know if like I don't know if they just didn't program that, and that's like a way to glitch it out, or if they did that on purpose. So it's like let's not have Spider-Man throwing police officers off the top of a skyscraper in New York City. Yes. I don't know. You could argue. Some people would think if you did that with these new games, had him do that, he'd be the greatest hero in the world.
Oh, absolutely. That I have to ask you about one last thing. The Predator missions. Were you one of those people like I was that would try and see if I could pile up every single henchman at one gargoyle?
I would do that from time to time.
Because there would be missions where they're, oh man, he's gone missing. And as soon as they were dead, they were just unconscious. They were on the floor. So that people don't know, you could perch and then wait for them to come down and then zip them up, drive away or fly away, throw a batarang, cut him down, and then flop right back to it, wait for someone to come back up and repeat that process. Yep. And you could have a pile of 20 people there and they would never catch on. And then never changed it.
And then in Arkham City, early in the game, I remember because like they would eventually start trying to shoot down the gargoyles. I remember the first time they tried that, I'm like, you son of a bitch.
Yep, it was like, they're smart.
They got smarter because they didn't do that. But my favorite thing in all of that was using the remote control batarang, but like I'd be like on this from here and, like try and like do loop-de-loops. That way they'd think that the batarang came, then they'd run to that other one and be like,
yep. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Run the opposite way. So, yeah.
Oh,
the remote control batarang was fun.
It was. And then there was ways where I took out people that I didn't realize what it were. They had the thugs in Arkham City that had the sonar jamming backpacks.
Yeah.
And there was one batarang that I can't remember. It was like an electronic batarang or like a sonar batarang that you were just supposed to like throw in a direction and it would pulse or something and people would come near it. And I just for shits and giggles threw that one time at one of those sonar backpack people and it exploded his backpack and knocked him out instantly. I was like, I don't know if that's supposed to work that way, but I'm doing that from now on. That's an easy way to get rid of you.
So you got another game out there. There's maybe one. I don't know if there's one more I want to talk about, but it's kind of like there's a lot of them like that, so I'm gonna kind of group them up into one.
Yeah,
one little ball.
I got one more, and I got to make sure I'm doing it just right. It involves that little guy up there, the Deadpool video game for the PS3.
Okay, yes.
That game. It partially helped tank High Moon Studios because almost no one bought it, but
which is a shame. Which is a damn shame.
Because they did this game right after they did those two Transformers games that were amazing, and they never really got the proper third one. They got a partial half-ass movie tie-in, whatever. Anyone who not played War 4 and Rise of Cybertron, those are really good Transformers games. But that Deadpool one was just so raunchy and so fully aware that it was being stupid. and like you're sitting there waiting, and like there's conversations you have with Cable where you're sitting there bored and it's giving you a prompt to shoot yourself in the head to end the conversation. And you start the conversation by finding out that your game got axed because the budget was too high. So you call the guy from High Moon Studios on the phone and threaten to murder his family, and then he accepts it. And then there's certain points where you're going through a regular third-person action game, and then you pop into a top-down dungeon crawler out of nowhere, or a side-scroller, and then all of a sudden you get through it, and you're like, what the hell is... He calls, Peter, what the hell's going on? He goes, just, sir, Deadpool to what you... I don't care. Put the money into it. The game's going to sell. Then it would go back to being third-person and high-tense graphics. Oh, it's great. And Nolan North did so well.
He has a conversation with Nolan North early in the game. My favorite part of that game is, like, you know, press X to start your mission. Boop! First achievement's like, oh, that's easy first achievement. And then like, oh, the second one too. Okay.
Yeah, so that's that's the kind of game this is going to be, huh? And yeah, and like the end of that game is utter and complete chaos.
I never finished it. I never finished it.
My hands were cramping, just dying, because you go through at the end of this game where you finally get to the tip top of this spire in Genosha, where you have thought you've killed Mr. Sinister like 4 times now. But you just killed clones, and Cable the entire time is trying to tell you that those are fakes. You're like posting about it on your Facebook and your Instagram and all this other stuff. But you finally get to the top, and before you can get to Sinister, you probably have to kill 300 grunts. I'm not joking. Like, you're just going through people, and then all of a sudden, like, clones of Vertigo and all these other like random like Blockbuster and all these people that you fought start popping back up, and at the end my hand was just like, I can't fight Sinister, I don't know what this boss fight is. And then eventually this big giant like Sentinel boot that you had programmed just comes and crushes him. You don't have a boss fight with him at all. It just ends, and it's fantastic. It's awesome because you basically
a farting church boss battle in Deadpool works out way better than that being the Joker. I promise you that.
Yes,
Joker from Arkham. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. I agree with you 100%. And it just becomes you basically making him walk into a giant X, and then the thing kills him, and you're just like, "What? We're done. Get out of here. Cut the credits. We're gone." And it just goes to the credits. And then
I have the game. I need to go back and do that. I need to go back and play it.
So you've watched the Deadpool movies, I'm going to assume?
Yes.
So the Deadpool rap that is in the Deadpool movie is actually originally from the Deadpool game end credits.
Oh, cool.
They went and got those people and had them change the lyrics to further fit the Deadpool movie. So that's when I heard that in the movie, I'm like, oh, y'all did research. You went and got the guys from the game rap end credits to do a song for Deadpool? And then they got again to do the X-Force rap in the second movie. It was so good. And like the entire time when you're trying to hit on freaking Psylocke and Rogue and all that, and like you have to make a Rogue a damsel in distress, but it makes no sense with their powers, so they openly bullshit a reason to make Rogue not be able to use her powers. And like there's points where you have speech bubbles talking to you about how to get over a canyon, and then all of a sudden you look and go, oh, so it turns into a side scroller and you jump across the word bubbles to get across the canyon. It's just so creative. It's so good.
The Deadpool is made for video games. Like I remember Marvel vs. Capcom 3. It's an okay game. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's a fun game to play with your buddies. But his special move being he picks up his special bar and beats you with it. That's awesome.
It's fantastic. That's the kind of stuff that I love to death when games do that. And it's kind of a weird, I don't know how to exactly say it, but there's this, it just made me think of it. In Akame ga Kill, one of my favorite mangas and animes is back there. There's a point where in the anime they don't do this, but in the manga, all of a sudden this character got killed and this other parts of the group didn't know that the one guy killed him. And then all of a sudden the one character didn't know. He's like, what happened to General so-and-so? Oh, he's dead. We killed him back in chapter 12. And they're like, what? That came out of nowhere. When it's pulled off properly, a rug pull like that gets me every time. And with Deadpool, you're doing it all the
Yeah,
freaking time.
Deadpool
You're
it
used to it.
yeah, Deadpool it works, and you know, it works for Deadpool.
Yeah, and like that Deadpool also, that is one of the things where I wasn't sure how they were going to do the Deadpool movie because they've kind of moved away from the split personality Deadpool.
Yeah, I
Which
guess.
because that's one thing in the movie when
Yeah,
I was in
I've never really heard like anyone kind of put it that way. Yeah, I guess
yeah,
you're right.
because he's got it in there. And then when they had the Ryan Reynolds movie, I was like thinking in my brain, I'm like, what should we have? I kind of like we could have like Kevin Hart be one of them and like Ice Cube be the other. Like I'm trying to think of the most polar opposites of people to have like the idiot one and the Shakespearean like smart one that they normally have. But I mean, it's not the end of the world, really. I wasn't
No,
that all upset about it. I just thought I'm like, maybe that was too goofy.
yeah, I never really realized that until you said, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
huh?
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. The things you think about.
Yes. So the last games that I want to talk about, they're they're different games, but they're all pretty well the same sort of idea behind them. X-Men Legends for the PS2. I played the one for the PS2, and then Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2. I played that one for the Xbox 360. Basically, it's your I don't even know the term. You have a team of 4, and they all do different things. It's not like a not RPG because you're still it's not turn based, but you have a team of 4 that fights, and it's just really cool. The story is really cool, especially X-Men Legends. X-Men Legends, where you go through the different things with just the X-Men. You fight everyone. You fight the whole Brotherhood. You fight. The second one has a pox, but you fight the whole Brotherhood. You fight, Magneto. You eventually fight. They don't have Henry Gyrick, but they have General William Kincaid, who's the anti-mutant person, and he's like the
Okay.
final boss after you beat Magneto. And I remember being so pissed. I'm like, Magneto sucked. Oh, it was so hard to beat Magneto. Oh, okay. Okay. What? And he was so hard. I remember what I did was, so in that game, like you had these things called extraction points where you could save your game or like switch out your team. Well, in the final boss battle, they had an extraction point there. Like, so you could always you'd always have one if you needed to make a switch.
Yeah.
So what I just did was I started the fight out because you'd level up the different mutants. I would start the fight out with like the lower level, there was rubber banding with it, so they wouldn't be like some on level 2 while the others were on level 50.
Okay.
But I'd start the ones that were like low level, and I would get as many licks with them in as I can, and then as one would die, I would go pick a new one. But what was funny / sad is whenever they would die, their body would stay there.
Oh no.
So it's like, all right, well, okay, let me get Jubilee, and okay, and okay, fucking, whatever. Beast is kind of weak against these sort of heroes. Okay, and then like, okay, Jubilee's dead. Okay, go get somebody better. Like, okay, Gambit's a little stronger. Okay, Emma Frost, she's a little stronger. Okay, Emma Frost is dead. Gambit's dead. Okay, time to get Nightcrawler. Okay, Nightcrawler's dead. Okay, and now it's time to get to the big dogs. Got get Jean Grey. Got to get Wolverine. Got to get Cyclops, which kills me on the inside to know that he was one of my best guys, and I had to save him for the end. But I digress. He was strong on the game. It wasn't have any love for Cyclops, but it was what it was. But like the whole time fighting this final boss battle, I'm doing this. And finally, you win at the end. But like, I'm seeing like the bodies. Like, there's Rogue, there's Gambit, and they're dead next to each other. There's Beast, there's Jubilee, there's Emma Frost, there's Nightcrawler, and they're all dead. They're all just sitting there. Hooray, X-Men win!
We did it.
But it's a fun game. The cutscenes are good. The voice acting was good. Especially for a PlayStation 2 game. But then Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 brings in the Civil War story, which I thought was very well done. And then they had like the fusion powers, which were really cool with the different characters, and it had Gambit in it, which automatically like knocks it like 10 times as good as the as good as
Exactly.
the first one that did not have Gambit. So, but I've beaten that game 3 times. I beat it once on the channel as part of the Let's Play, and I have never ever been on Iron Man's side. I can't bring myself. I know it's like one of the last achievements I need. It's like, if I just play this, I gotta. It's like a whole new game there of
Yeah.
picking Iron Man's side, but I just can't bring myself to do it because fuck Iron Man and fuck Iron Man's position in Civil War.
I'm there with you. I pick Cap every time.
Yep.
Every time. No,
Again,
I
there's a whole
agree.
other achievement there. There's a whole other game. There's a whole ass other game. But yeah,
Nice. No, that's good. Yeah, no, that it's not in that game, but one of my favorite Magneto lines is a bad Japanese translation that is in an X-Men game. And
welcome to die.
yes. Welcome to die, X-Men.
I love I love that game too because I remember taking the first time I ever played it. We took a band trip to Canada a little over 20 years ago, and we went to Canada's Wonderland theme park, and they had a big arcade there, and they had the X-Men game. Me and my buddy started playing it, and everybody kind of comes in because if you play like the original game, like you put a coin in and you play, you get a full team. Mm-hmm. So like, all right, well, I want to be Nightcrawler. Okay, I'll be Wolverine. Okay, somebody comes in, hey, fine, I'll be Colossus. And just some other random person like, I don't know who Dazzler is, but okay. And you have everybody, we had the whole team, and we're just like, keep going.
Yes,
keep going. Exactly. Keep going. And like, we're like, oh, hey, are we still good? Yeah. Like we're getting low on coins. Everybody put in. All right, got credit. And it's the fact that like, started out with me and my buddy from the same school, then like one other person from our school, then 2 strangers come in and start playing. It's like, wow, hey, we beat an arcade game. That's really cool. We beat an arcade, because I've never beaten an arcade game up to that point, and I'm like, maybe an arcade game. Awesome.
Nice. That the only one I've ever beaten was in our local town. We used to have a skating rink that had an arcade, or like a rollerblading rink that had an arcade as well. And I can't remember what the game was, but it was a Spawn arcade game, and that is the only one I've ever beaten.
Nice.
I love that. Loved it to death. Every freaking week, whenever I was allowed to go there, I would come in and just beat it. I only could ever do it with one character. Oh, it's so good though. That's one thing that needs to be made more of now is arcades.
Yeah. And what's funny is, we got one in St. Louis that I love going to, but it's a bar and it's an arcade, and it's perfect because that's perfect for people our age. Mm-hmm. Let's go play the old games we used to play, and we'll get
have your drinks.
Drink.
Yeah, absolutely. The good old barcade, and they make enough money.
Oh yeah, they do. Oh yeah, they do. But we're gonna put a bow on this. There's plenty more we can talk about with video games. We could go in the opposite direction and talk about some bad games and have a lot of fun with that. But
yes, we could.
Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. Let us know if there's any game that you want to hear our opinion on, and we'll let it be known, I'm sure, in a future episode. Yeah. And be sure, if you like this, to like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on my social media pages, facebook.com/athleticgeek89, Twitter @athletic_geek89, and on Instagram @athleticgeek89. Organoid Zero on every platform, correct? Anything else you want to talk about?
No, that's it. Just if you like cosplays, check me out on my Instagram. There'll be a lot more on that coming soon.
And definitely check out his weekly Twitch streams.
Yes. Got you in the other day. That would make me very happy.
I was in the other day, and then by the time this drops, it'll be like a month ago.
Yeah, exactly.
I was in there.
They're gonna try correlating like that.
Try and correlate like when was
that podcast 3 months ago.
Oh god. Well, I'm choking, so that's even more of a sign that we got to stop this one. So we will see you next time.
I'd see ya.